I can hear you now.
Oh, wonderful. All right, you didn't miss anything important. I just said my name. And I said that my co-presenters would introduce themselves when they got to their sections, but seems how you can talk now. Do you want to go ahead and do that? Julie, will you go ahead and introduce yourself briefly?
Okay. Hi. Okay. Hi, I'm Julie Zhu, IEEE's senior manager.
You're very quiet.
Library partners. Can you hear me?
You're extremely quiet.
Okay, let me just can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that was a little bit better. So whatever you did, keep doing that.
Okay. So this is Julie Zhu, IEEE's senior manager for Discovery Partners.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, Athena?
Yes.
Okay, super. I try to shout. Yeah, I'm Christine Stohn. I'm the Director of Product Management. I work for Libris, mostly with discovery services, but also with knowledge bases. And that's really also part of our topic today.
Okay, great. So you can read the title slide. We are going to talk about one ID to talking about an idea of having standard package IDs. I hope that can be stopped. It's really just, okay, great. Let me just launch into it. So we're imagining package IDs, and we have to imagine package ID as a standard. We have to imagine it because it doesn't really exist yet. But what we're hoping to have is a unique, persistent, structured identifier that is consistently used on every service and application where it makes sense to have it. So that would be on perhaps metadata loads into knowledge bases, was really the initial thought, but also maybe for invoices and licenses and other things that talk about a set of content. All right, so we have three different perspectives we're going to talk about. My perspective is as a librarian. So any librarian who has had to deal with trying to activate packages in SFX or in holdings and linking management from EBSCO or in ALMA's central index, central discovery index, you'll see these problems. You'll get it, you've licensed something, you've paid for it, and now you need to activate it so that the link resolver can connect your users to the content in a seamless way. But you go into the the knowledge base for the link resolver, and you see it's very confusing to try and figure out which package you're supposed to turn on. You know you licensed, but it never quite matches what you're seeing in the knowledge base. Then problem two is understanding sometimes you maybe need to configure several of them to represent what you just licensed. So figuring out the combination that matches what you want. And then you face that whole set of problems again, amplified across your entire collection if you migrate from one system to another. So I hope that this is large enough that everyone can see it online and in this room. This is just a sort of example using Emerald, not to pick on them, but we invoice for their package. We get the invoice from EBSCO, and it lists the package name and then these 249 titles are on this package list of titles. And it shows that's 37 pages of invoice that we're looking at. And I need to match that with something in the knowledge base. So if this was an image when we were using EBSCO's holding and linking management, and not to pick on them because this problem will happen in every knowledge base where I have to go for this. It says that, okay, Emerald has 161 different packages that I can choose from. And it's got in those packages, some of them are the complete, this is everything. If you turn this on, you're intended to get. And it says the number of titles. So there's like the Emerald Nura has 210 titles. The Emerald, I'm not even going to try and read that, has 296 titles. None of them are really matching the 249 titles that I need to turn on. And I understand why. I'm not going to get into why those don't match, but if I'm trying to figure out what to turn on, it's very, very confusing. So problem two, let's take ABI Inform. I don't know how many of you subscribe to that, but it's a database and the invoice says ABI inform. And then if you go to turn it on, or if you even go to ProQuest and want to search it, you can see they have subs databases in that databases. So do I need to turn on the complete? Do I need to turn on the global? Do I need to turn on trade and industry? Do I need to turn them all on? How do I know what is the right combination to match what I've licensed in the database? And then here's an example from Wiley that shows a different issue where we're licensing a different set of journal titles each year. And I can see that each of these packages are represented, but then do I have to turn on 2017, 18, 19, 20, even though it's almost the same titles with the same holdings every year? And I have this represented, like, we've had this for like 15 years or more. So I could potentially have the Wiley listed 15 times and my users are saying, 15 entries in my list of where we get this particular article from, and what are they supposed to do with that? It's a usability issue. So there's a problem of duration and scale. It's got to span years. And we have, this is a snapshot from our EBSCO Holdings Linking Management, 1,516,000 titles that we turned on. So that's a lot to manage. And then trying to figure out exactly what's right for each of those packages, the 1,015 packages, is time consuming, and we can't delegate it down in a meaningful way because it's too complicated. And then again, I talked about the migrating issue. So really, that's my last slide. I'm going to let some other perspectives talk. So Julie, are you ready to take it over and switch the mic?
Yes. So I'm going to share my
If you're talking,
slides.
we won't hear you yet.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's really too quiet still.
Still too
He's
quiet?
working on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Turn the knobs.
Okay. I'm at my loudest voice possible. So, okay. So I'm just trying to talk about the publisher perspective on the single package ID. Okay. Let me, sorry for, okay. So from IEEE, and we have over 180 Kband collections. Some of our collections have mixed content types like IEL. We have which includes journals, proceeding standards, and we have single content type packages like SPP. We also have collections for proceeding standards, ebooks, courses, etc. And matching collections by titles across different systems is difficult. So special characters, typos, spaces, abbreviations, just among the many things that make exact title match very, very difficult. And as Athena mentioned, sometimes the KB has multiple packages of similar names. And also sometimes we change the collection name without informing all the internal and external parties. So you can see why we would prefer to have a single package ID. And here are some reasons that we would like to have a single package ID and what we can do with it. We hope to map the package ID to the product ID inside our invoice, which we don't have right now. We would like to have this package ID to help group and sort our close to 200 collections. And we want to map our package ID to all the collection IDs in the various KB tools. And with this mapping, it'll be easier for us to manage adding, updating, or removing collections in the various tools, the various systems. And with this mapping, it'll be easier for us to compare the title counts and the article counts of the collections across different systems. And we also want to use the package ID to audit the library's selections of of the collections in various systems, and hopefully work toward automate Kband and other authentication linking services. So you can see here on the right side is part of an invoice. And the invoice, we do have a product description or product name. And the product name does not always match the Kband collection name. And sometimes it's not on a one-to-one relationship. For instance, we have the ASPP is our periodicals package, but different libraries, when they subscribe to it, they may have different starting years. Some may start from 1998 or from 2005, 2010. Although we do have different Kband collections for each of these packages, they appear the same in the invoice. And so that could be confusing. And when a library sometimes asks us, what title should I have in this package? So it's not always a quick and easy answer. So we would like to map or add this unique package ID into the voice to help library select the correct collection. Of course, it's not an easy task because how to do that? We have to work with the internal teams, business and technical, to figure out how to create a one-to-one relationship and whether it's possible to do that. And we also want to use this package ID to group and sort our packages. And we are experimenting ways to do that. So we suppose the package ID can start with a platform name, right? At Explore, and the first two set of 2 digits could indicate the content types. For instance, 00 means all titles within one content type. 01 means mixed content. 02 means periodicals, etc. The second set of 2 digits can indicate a package or package group within a certain content type. For instance, in this case, 01 is for ASPP, 02 for our journal archives. And then the third set of 2 digits could indicate the specific package within that group. Like you say, a 01 here means ASPP 1998, 02 for 2005, 03 for 2010. So this way we can use this package ID to group and sort and organize our packages. We also want to use this package ID, map our package ID to the KB collection IDs in the major KB tools. And on the right side, you can see these the 5 major KB tools. That's Libris's Elma, 360, SFX, EBSCO's Vortex Finder, and OCLC's WorldCat KnowledgeBase. And they have their own collection IDs. With this correct mapping, it'll be easier for librarians to see which collections to select, and especially when there are multiple collections of similar names, and also be very helpful when they switch to a different tool. This mapping is not easy. Currently, it's like a manual for us, but I think it's the work needs to be done, and there are many benefits for this mapping. And when the mappings are done correctly, it will be easier for us to manage adding or removing or updating these collections in various vendor tools. For instance, when we ask a KB vendor to add a collection, they may not always do it in a timely way. And so we can use this sheet to track. And if there is any change, it'll be easier to use this kind of a sheet to manage the communication. With these IDs mapped, and it'll be easier for us to compare the collection title counts across different systems. So far, several KB providers are publishing the monthly collection title counts. So we can do regular counts on a monthly or basis. And if the differences are small, that's okay, because there is always a time gap. If the differences are too large and we need to troubleshoot to figure out whether the problems are on our Kband side or on the KB side. Likewise, we can also use this ID mapping to compare the article counts in our collections. And so far, I think one discovery service provider is publishing monthly the article counts of the collections, and now it seems to me that counts include a lot of duplicates. So the comparison may not be that meaningful after they can provide unique counts, more accurate, and it will be I think we can do a more accurate comparison. We can also use this package ID mapping to audit library selections in their KB mark or index or different tools. And sometimes we do receive reports from some KB vendors about which libraries have selected which KB collections and downloaded which mark collections. So we can compare. And so here, this example can see that there are some problems. So this library upgraded from ASPP to IEL several years ago, but on the right side, you can see this library has only selected the ASPP and IEEE Explore all journals, and that's very different from IEL, which includes proceedings and standards. So if we can reach out to libraries individually, or hopefully we can use this as a first step for Kband automation. So this is like a high-level flowchart of Kband automation. So publishers can receive the IP ranges from libraries individually or from IP registry, and then the publishers can deliver the package ID and institution ID and IP ranges to the vendor. And when a user who is affiliated with the institution and comes to one of these library vendor tools, and the vendor will be able to recognize this user's IP and affiliated institution, and then provide a link and entitlement, and send a link to the publisher platform. The publisher can authorize the user to the full text. So we hope this package ID can, in the future, will simplify the process and make it work. So I want now Christine can talk about the vendor perspective.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So let me just share my screen. Just a moment. Julie, can you just confirm that you can see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. Okay, so I talk about the knowledge-based provider perspective here in regards to the unique package ID. I can probably just echo a lot of things that Athena and Julie said. A lot of this also applies to us, but I would like to just talk about a few things which are maybe a little bit more unique to us as a knowledge-based provider. Okay. All right. So from a knowledge-based provider perspective, there are some very distinct benefits to having a unique package ID. And again, it's really echoes a lot of things that Athena and Julie already said. But it comes back really to the role of disambiguation, to be a disambiguation data point in the supply chain. The knowledge base is really an intermediary between the content providers and the libraries. And therefore, you're kind of always a little bit between chairs. Unique package IDs can help us in many ways. Not least, it simplifies communication and allows for better and quicker and just more efficient verification of data feeds. And it's a stable way to track changes. In the longer tail, it can also help with the rights flow between a knowledge base and a discovery index. Plus, it helps with recording packages in the license. But I would also like to point out the potential the package ID has to support innovative features, specifically in the automation of workflows and the automation of holdings data, Julie very briefly already mentioned Kband automation, and I would like to describe this a little bit more in detail because it's really one of my favorites. And I know that a lot of our library customers really like using it. So it's really worthwhile to talk about it a little bit more. Kband automation describes a process to automatically update an institution's knowledge base with their holdings from a provider platform. When we first defined Kband automation, we kept it simple in order to allow a relatively quick outcome with the best possible benefit. And therefore, it currently supports one general publisher package in the knowledge base that contains all available content. So the process is that the knowledge base is automatically downloading a holdings file specific to an institution from a content provider's platform. It uploads it into the knowledge base and it updates the package. It activates and updates the holdings in the knowledge base. So there are a lot of advantages to that process. It saves a lot of work. It's just very fast. It gives users quicker access to things. It's just a really good process. At the time, there was already the idea to extend Kband automation at one point to be able to update also sub-collections, not just one comprehensive collection. This is a real challenge if there is no unique package ID, because as Julie already mentioned, or as also Athena already mentioned, the packages can just have different names. Naming conventions are different, and it's just very problematic to do the mapping. So this would really be the prerequisite to go into the next phase of Kband automation. I do want to talk about challenges, because obviously they are there. When I discussed this with my colleagues who are keeping our knowledge bases up to date, they were very enthusiastic about this and thought it was a great idea. And then the second reaction was, how are we going to apply package IDs retrospectively to the knowledge base? Because that's a real challenge. We have, that's a huge operational undertaking with over 30,000 collections in the knowledge base and many different providers. We will probably have to map collection names against package IDs, and that certainly will not always go smoothly. In addition, there's a question of what the expectations are about how the content of such packages with a package ID is defined. A package ID is very unique. So you probably have the expectation that if you have the package ID on your invoice and you see the package ID in the knowledge base, that it has exactly the same content. We have many packages in the knowledge base that just grew over time, where not everyone has the same access to every item, and where sometimes the content provider has a different opinion of what the content is than our library customers. It just happens, and it's not a unique case. This is just the everyday life in the knowledge base, so to speak. These are all bridges we will have to cross when we get there. NISO work items are collaborative projects that depend on consensus. Basically, we're looking for a solution that can be successful without putting too much burden on any of the stakeholders. The package ID is absolutely the right way forward, but we need to also be realistic. That's just what I wanted to say here. We need to be realistic about what it solves and when. So rather than having something that's perfect, I prefer something that is workable for everyone. In my experience, this is a prerequisite for NISO recommendations or work items to really succeed. That's not a project where one party takes all the benefits and the other one has all the work. So this is really something where we need to work together to have a practical solution that we all can implement and that really benefits everyone. So let's talk about the actual work item that Athena and I submitted earlier this year, and that was accepted by the NISO's Information Policy Analysis Topic Committee. So this is what we are looking at. This is the process from the approved proposal. So you can see here that we proposed first to conduct an initial analysis, and that is exactly meeting what's necessary because of what I talked about earlier about the challenges. We need to be very aware of what the showstoppers might be when we go along. So we want to conduct a landscape analysis on the current process. We want to document use cases, look at requirements, look at showstoppers or possible showstoppers, look at specific requirements which are also usable for Kband automation. And then also we need to explore how identifiers can be structured and also if the creation of common parameters is really enough here, or if we, in the end of the day, also need to create a registry for this, which makes it a little bit more complex. So these are all things that we need to clarify in the initial process. That's the initial analysis. And then obviously the result of that is to create specific recommendations or possibly a standard. We have not yet decided whether this should be a standard or a recommendation. There are different processes for that. And that's also part of the working groups tasked to figure out which one is the best way to go forward. So this is the work item. This is the timeline. We kind of scheduled this to take about 20 months. That's kind of realistic for a NISO work item. Obviously, these things never work 100% how they're being planned, but that's kind of the general plan. We are at the moment looking at getting the working group together. We had a lot of interest specifically from Librarian, which is fantastic. We also need obviously other stakeholders involved. I will be involved as a knowledge-based vendor, and I think we also had other interests from other knowledge-based vendors. That's also fantastic, and we also need publishers on board. I believe there are a few interested, but at this point, I would like to specifically ask publishers to come forward, and if you're interested in that, and to participate in the working group. And you can email Athena or me or directly Nettie if you are interested in participating in this flow or in this work item. Okay, and this brings me to the end of my part of the presentation. Obviously, this is a collaborative effort, so we would like to discuss this with you. We would like to get your comments. We would like to get your questions. And again, you can also email us with your interest to participate in this working group, or also if you're just interested in the topic and want to comment or something. Okay, so I kind of stop the sharing, or can I just leave it on the screen, right? Because we want to see the email addresses maybe later on. Any questions? I can actually not see the chat here. I think I need to, how do I do this? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because I have some problems here to see anything if I'm sharing. I see that there are some questions in the chat, but I don't know. I don't see the live audience, so I don't know. Athena, that's maybe something that you have to manage. Okay, I feel that we lost Athena. I can't hear her.
The way this works is that either the mic in the room can be live, or the mic for the Zoom can be live. But if we have them both on at the same time, it causes feedback. So what we should probably do is I think we should ask for questions in the room and then alternate and ask a question from the online audience and alternate back and forth if that works. Okay. So does anyone in the room have a question? There's a mad rush in the room, a huge line at the mic. Okay, I'm lying. So we do have someone. So just a moment.
Is it okay? Leave the mask on?
Either way.
Okay. Just like I missed the part of the session, so I don't know it was answered before. And my question here is like, this is like an international, like a standard package ID, right? And who will be assigning? Is it going to be instructed to the publishers? And then we have to assign and follow certain numerical or alpha numbers in there, or is there going to be any organization takeover assigning this ID?
That is an excellent question. And I think I'm actually going to spike it over to my co-presenters because they have the publisher and the knowledge-based provider perspective. And I'm just a librarian, so I just want it to happen. So Julie and Christine, do you have any response?
I mean, I can repeat what I said before. We haven't really decided this yet because this is obviously an open question. If we if we have a registry for that sort of thing, that adds complexity. So I would actually prefer not to have this, but if it's necessary, then it's necessary. I think it would be great to be able to have some parameters, like every publisher has their unique, let's say, 4 digits or whatever. And then, they have their numbers assigned to their packages. But really, this has to be coming out of the initial analysis process. And Julie, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I agree. I think, definitely we should do some initial analysis, and especially get information from both the publisher side and the vendor side. And so I personally think it will make more sense for the publisher to assign the package ID, because we start these packages, and also we need to put them into the invoices ideally, right? And but I do understand that the KB tools already have their collection IDs. So I think mapping will be and we don't yet. Just I guess we need to some the analysis from many parties and figure out what's the optimal way of doing it.
I think we have to understand what exactly they're going to be used for in the knowledge base. I mean, the one condition, it has to be unique. So it cannot be that publisher one, like Julie, is assigning a package ID, and then, another publisher goes and takes the same package ID. This can absolutely not happen. So we need to have some sort of parameters to define, let's say, the first digits or something are unique for each publisher, and then each publisher can assign the following numbers. I don't think that the knowledge base is really concerned about this, as long as it's unique, and depending on what it's being used for in the knowledge base, for example, for analytics or something, then you might really want to be able to identify the publisher or the content provider from the package ID. So if that is a condition, if this is a requirement, then obviously the structure has to be different than, if it's just a number.
Yeah, so what I was thinking about, because I've started experimenting on our side for our own purposes, and I would say that the package ID probably should start with the platform. Just right now, like the Kband title list starts with the platform. That would make sense. But again, we need more analysis to find out what's the way that will work for all the parties.
Yeah, I should add that we all have kind of our own ideas at the moment, but the working group has not started yet. So, all of these things are really part of the initial analysis, and really we need your input, everybody's input for this. This is also why we are kind of asking you to participate and help us with figuring out, also what the restrictions are, what the requirements are, what we can absolutely not have, what we absolutely have to have, and that sort of thing. So this is exactly what we're looking for.
I don't know if you could hear me or not. There are small publishers and then big publishers, right? So Springer Nature has like more than 1,000 packages. And, are you going to assign ESN as part of the ID? So I know it's still in analysis, The other thing I've been thinking is, like we have ISSN number, ISBN number, like we can also consider ISPN number, International Standard Package ID, something like that would be helpful for librarians and vendors and providers, to identify this unique package. There's a struggle from the vendor side as well, EBSCO and Libris, this finding the package. Every time there's a new package coming up, and sometimes you don't see the old packages, those are the issues. So you may consider all these things. Thank you.
No, exactly. Thank you.
Is live. I think we have a couple of questions from the chat that I think we should address. Okay. I'll read one from Marna. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Her question is there a possibility to have a unique package ID for all KB and Libris products like 367, Alma, Primo? So if I understand the question is, would the ID for the package be the same in all of these different knowledge bases? And yes, that is absolutely the core idea of it. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly read the next question and then let you guys hop in. Danelia, I slaughtered that one too, but I'm just going to move on. Have you thought about adding counter 5 to unify usage statistics? And I'm going to say that is not yet on the radar, but it is something in the back of my mind. It would be something that the counter technical advisory group would want to talk about after the fact and see if it makes sense to use them. I'll pause here and see if my co-presenters have anything they want to add for the last two questions.
No, not. I think you basically answered it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. About adding the unique package ID to all the KB tools, I mean, that's ideally, if that could be done, that would be great. But what I tried to do was trying to say map. We map our the package ID to the correct collection IDs in the KB tools, because there are already tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands collections already they have the IDs. And so for new ones, probably we can add, but still I think there'll be a big effort to map first.
Yeah, it's certainly a huge operational effort for doing this retrospectively in the knowledge base. I mean, there's no question about this. This is like, we have, I think, 32,000 or something like this collections in the knowledge base. Mm-hmm. And we will have to map names against IDs, and that's not going to go just smoothly. I mean, no question about this. We have to start doing it. We have to see how it goes. It's a lengthy process. Hopefully at one point we are where we want to be, and hopefully it's relatively simple. But we're also dealing with like I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 different providers. Everyone is going to have a little bit of a different operational process. The knowledge bases have to see how best to apply it once the package ID exists. I should say, maybe also to your point, Julie, I think the package ID in the knowledge base, and that's just purely from a structural viewpoint of the knowledge base, we would probably have a separate field. We would not change the internal numbers that we already have. We would add an additional number. And then we need to see what the functional impact is on the knowledge base and what it's being used for, from analytics to other tools, because knowledge bases don't stand by themselves. You obviously have a lot of different features which are on top of the knowledge base, which is using the data of the knowledge base. So yes, it has a lot of impact there, and there needs to be a lot of considerations here. It's not going to be easy. I absolutely think this is the right way. This is why, I'm absolutely supporting this. But, this is not going to be simple for the knowledge base.
Yeah, it'll be difficult.
Questions?
Mapping the relationship. Yeah, you have to establish like a unique one-to-one relationship across all different systems. Yeah, it'll be a lot of work, and there may be some. Oh well, I don't want to say beforehand, but there will be a lot of scenarios.
We're not there yet, so
but
let's have the ID first, and then
But we should work toward that goal, right?
Okay, we have a couple more questions from the very active online audience. So another plug for including it with Counter. I think that will definitely be a conversation, but I think that there are hurdles to doing that. The biggest thing is that Counter does not care about which package you've licensed. It just knows what your interactions with your users were on a particular platform. So that would be adding something that they're not currently tracking. So I wouldn't expect that to be something to come about quickly. Let's see. And Karen says, I worry about the proliferation of package IDs, much like ISBNs, which reduces the value of unique. So we all have seen that, one title may have a whole bunch of different ISSNs that change over the years. And I don't foresee that happening. I'm wondering, do my co-presenters have any thoughts on that?
If you look at ISBNs, there are far more books, obviously, than there are collections. So we have, packages, as I said, it's about 30,000 knowledge base. There are probably more around, but we're talking about 10,000 here. We're not talking about millions. If you look at ISBNs and ebooks, you're talking about millions. That's a whole different ballgame. I completely understand your point. I think it's a very good point. And we need to make sure that this is unique, but the goal here is to have a unique number.
Yeah, and also we want to do the architecture, the design correctly from the beginning, hopefully. And if it's relatively easy or not so easy, but it's a norm, and we do it consistently, and we probably should be able to avoid these too many collection IDs that are duplicate each other in different ways. And yeah, I think we'll see how what kind of results we'll achieve out of the initial analysis.
We are officially at closing time, and I guess we probably do need to leave so other people can get into their rooms. We did not get through all of the comments online. I really appreciate you all being so active and engaged, and we're going to count on that as we move forward with this work item proposal. We do need a group of very active committee members, because this is a collaborative project. NISO deals in volunteers coming together and putting their brains together to come up with something to improve how we can do business. And I hope that interested parties will reach out to Christine or I or Nettie Lagasse at NISO. Any of these routes are a good way to reach to us. So thank you very much. And thank you to Julie and Christine. Appreciate
Thanks,
your time.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, Athena.